Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья. Я Тимофей Мартынов.
Hello, dear friends. Timofey Martynov, investor community founder,
Я буду задавать
smartclub.ru. And I will ask questions today to the CFO of Positive Technologies,
Алла,
Allah Makarova. Hello, Allah.
пригласил человека, который
I've been asking a person who is closer to finances in your company,
мне выдался шанс
and I had a chance to speak personally to you about financial reporting, about even some specific numbers of the company. Well, that's what I'm going to speak about today. Well, the first question that I would like to ask you, you've provided reporting for the Q1 of your company, and there was a statement, interesting statement,
компании.
that corporate profits,
Продажи компании выросли в три
the sales of the company have been tripled. At the same time, the revenue has grown by 50%, 1.4 billion.
Почему такое
Can you explain why such difference between revenue numbers and sales numbers?
расхождение образовалось?
How did you come with such serious deviation? Well, it's an important question. I think this is fundamental question in order to understand how the Positive Technologies business model works. What are sales? Sales are transactions which were made with our clients. So these are contracts that have been signed, procurement of our products and licenses, and certificates for providing of our services, because we provide big cycle of services, extended technical support for our products, services of monitoring, pen testing, and the main peculiarity is that compared to sales, which are contracted at the moment when our client buys the product and signs agreement with us or with distributor, revenue is admitted within period of time according to the requirements of standards of international consolidated reporting. So the admittance of this revenue comes with a certain delayed effect, a little bit later than sales are happening. That's why sales is a certain criteria of the future growth of our revenue. The volume of sales which happened in the Q1 will be converted into the revenue within the year 22. The Q2, Q3, depending from when clients will implement and will start using those licenses, or alongside with the provision of our services, support services, or any other services that we provide to the clients. So out of these two indicators, investors should look at the revenue and not sales. Which is more representative indicator for them? I think sales are the more important one for the investor, because if investor looks into the future and if investor is interested how the company is going to grow, how the market share is going to develop for us, how effective is our sales force, how do we work with the client, how do we attract new clients, how do we increase the volume of sales. Of course, the first and the most important indicator is the growth of sales. Moreover, we always understand, you remember our reporting, we have very strong seasonality. Basically, in Positive Technology sales, historically, the main effect comes to the Q4 within a year. That's why such high level of Q1, on one side, it's a very positive consequence of the fact that right now we are moving with a good rate, but at the same time, it would be right to look at the indicator that we are going to provide upon the results of the year 2022, because the main contracting, the main transactions and procurements on the side of big clients with whom we work, they are happening in the end of the year. Usually this is Q4. And some of this revenue will be transferred into the year 2023. But all this revenue is a direct obligation. It's not just a correction on the level of financial reporting. This is something that will happen earlier or later. The moment of admission will be a little bit different from the moment of admission of sales. Such high indicators of Q1 sales-wise, can they tell us that future quarters will also be very strong and much stronger than in year 2021? I'm not bold enough to make such forecasts, because historically we were able to see in previous periods that sales been behaving differently in the course of the year. For example, if you will remember 2020, the year of pandemics, limitations, COVID limitations, when most of businesses have been compressing their activities, everybody have been moving to remote operations, and we've started Q1 without understanding of what's going to happen, how the clients will react, how budgets will change, how the procurement improvements are going to be built. And to our surprise, in the Q2, we have seen the break of all the trends. We have shown and indicated very high growth for ourselves historically. Then it was equalized. But upon the results of the year, we have supported these dynamics, and sales of the year 2020 were really high. Most likely that right now we will see something similar, maybe some reduction. I mean, not reduction of sales, but reduction of dynamics. So we maybe not going to see triple growth in quarter 2, 3, but on average, upon the results of the year 2022, we believe that not less than 50% growth of sales will happen compared to the previous year.
Чистый долг компании практически
Net debt of the company came to almost zero.
изменение денежной позиции составило
So the monetary position was on the level of 1 billion, according to your reporting. So the net debt at the end of the year 2021 was 1 billion. If I don't forget anything, if you don't think about the rent, so the net debt is on the level of zero. How
увеличение чистого
did you increase your net monetary position?
Сторона нашей сезон.
That's another side of our seasonality. If in sales we are moving to the quarter 4, Q4, most of the sales are happening with a payment delay from our clients on the level from 30 to 60 days. So conversion of sales into the monetary flow and collection of accounts receivable happens in the Q1. So the Q1 is a peak of account receivable collection upon the results of our sales of the previous year. And as a rule, Q2, Q3 for us, seasonally from the money point of view, is more having has higher gap. We have the deficit of liquidity because our operational costs are constant. Sales are still on a low level, but by Q4 we are coming back to the positive net flow. That's why our net debt at the end of the year and Q1 of the year has the lowest value. Plus, this year we have accumulated much higher liquidity reserve with the consideration of certain uncertainty that we've seen in February and March, which has allowed us to reduce our net debt.
в формировании денежных потоков.
So in forming the cash flow of the company, we see certain seasonality Q1 with the consideration
Продаж в четвертом
of the fact that most of the sales in the Q4 with the payment delay, money flow comes to the quarter 1, Q1. And Q2, Q3, as I understand previously, they were with a negative cash flow. Yes, and this is specific to us. And this year, it's most probably that you will have the same trend. Yes, it will definitely be kept. In Q2 and Q3, we will have negative cash flow. And this is a planned normal situation for us. We are going to increase debt burden. We will increase it by certain dates. By the end of the Q2, end of Q3, the EBITDA net debt, it's going to grow. And Q2, Q3 EBITDA will be lower. However, upon the results of the Q4, it's going to be compensated.
вот, насколько я помню, компания объявила
If I properly remember, the company has announced payment of dividends on the level of 1 billion.
вернется после этого.
So the net debt will return to the level of the end of the year after the payment of dividends. And if I remember properly, the company has borrowed 370 millions and for the advancement of closing these needs in cash position
Второй, третий квартал.
at the account of the fact that Q2, Q3 will be weak from the point of view of cash flow. Yes, you're absolutely right. As I've told you previously, we cognitively went in a direction so that in the Q1 we would accumulate additional liquidity for the company because there was certain uncertainty for the exchange rates. Everybody been thinking that funding will be more expensive, and it did happen. But in the future, alongside with the situation, how the situation is going to change right now, we do see exchange rate changes, and we are going to be involved in recrediting of our portfolio. So I think in the peak, in the course of this year, upon the results of the Q3, our net debt and ratio between a net debt to EBITDA is not going to be 1.5 ratio. So to us, we define this comfortable range, 1.5, within which we are ready to increase our debt burden.
Денежным потоком.
Coming back to cash flow,
Может быть, навскидку вы помните, да?
maybe approximately you will be able to remember what is the percentage.
Понимаю,
Well, Q4, as I understand, is also positive from the point of view of cash flow. Yes.
Первый квартал еще сильнее, чем
So Q1 is even stronger than Q4. Yes, of course.
какое-то соотношение?
So is there any ratio between Q4 and Q1?
Ну, там 1 к 2.
2 to 1, 1 to 2, or whatever?
Примерно одинаково.
Well, approximately they are similar, but Q1 is a little bit higher by about 20% because the cash flow of the Q1 is above the cash flow of the Q4. And 1, 2, 3, some seasonal minus in quarters 2 and 3.
Теперь
Yes.
вот расходная
Okay, the
пока ехал.
expense
Расходы на маркетинг в первом квартале серьезно выросли.
marketing expenses has grown by 90%, 440 million rubles in quarter one.
Э,
Maybe you can tell us about
Что это за расходы?
what are those expenses? Why do you have them? Why such a serious growth? This is not only for marketing expenses. This is the sales support, sales by themselves, sales function of Positive, and this is something that we're increasing very significantly. We have started increasing it from the last year. We have understood ambitions that we had for this year, that we are planning actively and significantly to grow in the future with current clients, go to new clients, go to new niches, increase of the headcount in the sales department, sales support. So sales, this is also marketing. Yeah, this is sales and marketing. So this is not only advertising, procurement, not only this event that we're present. No, this event is a very important component, definitely. But we've been conducting this event last year, if you remember, this year, and keeping within the same budget, but within the previous year. And due to the situation that Positive was getting ready for public positioning, we've changed our PR strategy. We started speaking more about ourselves. We started developing the AR relations with investors, transformation of sales, costs, expenses for different partnership events. And this is a very important. Hiring new sales, supporting sales. So these are all directions which are the main part of the sales marketing expenses concept. That's why they are growing with such fast rates. Well, as analytic, I always extrapolate certain results for the future in order to build a model of future profits and calculate just price of the company.
Тоже
So the expenses also have to be defined in the model. So I'm interested in the question, during the Q1 growth of the marketing expenses, will it be the same in the future quarters? Proportionally, we should expect that these expenses will be continuous. It's not like one-time growth of these expenses, but all the expenses will grow proportionally. First of all, we look
Продаж, которые мы
at the growth rate that we have defined for ourselves. For Positive, for our financial model, it was always important that our profit should grow with higher rates than our expenses. And this is something that allows us to be operationally effective, show high results of profitability and EBITDA and net profit. And to us, this is very important because we want to keep this.
которые мы захотим.
So this growth rate that we will define for ourselves from the point of view of operational expenses, business development expenses, marketing expenses, will define those opportunities that we see on this market and those that we would like to implement. And this year we have very high rate and we would like to do a lot of things. We would like to grow significantly this year. We speak about our strategy of annual doubling of our sales, every 2 years. And this is something that we've been able to show historically. And the higher our base, the higher is our level, the more difficult it is to support this ambition. And this is impossible to do, keeping it on the level of expenses. Well, this is very logical.
надо сложно, что пока не удается.
Well, I would like to say that this is still possible to increase the revenue with high growth rates, which leads to the extension of profitability. And profits are growing as well. Well, I've paid attention.
Немножко нелогично, да, то есть то, что
It is a little bit not logical that marketing expenses, if the company grows, this is a logical thing, but R&D expenses,
сократились к первому кварталу 20.
they have been reduced by the Q1 of 2021. Why?
Сохранится ли опять-таки такая тенденция в
And will you keep this trend in the future, or should we expect the growth of R&D expenses? In order to properly estimate R&D expenses, it's not enough just to look at P&L.
Наши расходы на исследования
because our R&D expenses, they consist of two parts. We have capital expenses, our investments into capex,
тратим на создание
things that we spend for creating our products, development of new technologies. Not all these expenses are being capitalized, and I'm speaking about some significant major releases of our products. Those releases that we are launching just recently in April. We have announced a new product, XDR, but we still continue investing money in it, and development phase has not been completed. Right now in Positive Portfolio, we have approximately 12 products. They are in different life cycle stages. Some of them are in very active period of development. Some of them are already in support. So product support, which is not a significant amendment to functionality or development of new technologies. This is operation expenses, and the growth rate for them is much lower because they do not require any significant investments into it. More organic growth and capital expenses. This is something that we will invest every year, continuing growing in the future. So I believe that in the course of this year, approximately 30-35% will be our growth for capex and development of our own products, and this is something that is our R&D investment.
Всегда волновал вопрос, по какому
I was always interested in the question: how do you divide expenses for R&D? Which of them are related to cost part and which are included into P&L, and which of them are included into investments and being depreciated in the course of future years to come?
да, потому что
So where's this threshold?
тонкая,
Because it's very thin and you can move those expenses from one article into another. Yes, this threshold is very thin, but the standards of financial reporting, international IFR, and auditors are carefully following them, checking our financial reporting that there are no deviations there. And the main approach is that while the product is being developed, before it started its commercialization, before it has earned any serious positions in the market, before the first test sales are happening of this product and piloting together with the client, while we still believe that functionally product has not reached its maturity, and this is the main criteria, functional maturity of the product. This is all development and capital investments. At the moment when the product development has been stopped, when it covers all the demands and needs of the client, solves all their problems in the area of informational security.
большая часть
Since that moment, most of the expenses will be support. So support expenses is operational. Everything else is investment into development. Yes.
на предыдущем
Yeah. During the previous presentation, I've heard about growth problems, that you need to hire a lot of people, that you need to scale yourself, they have to be placed somewhere. An equation that has been formulated by our analytical person, whether these problems are actual for you, and will the company build additional office, or maybe you have enough space in the office where you are right now. Will you increase your rental space? Will you increase your rental costs as well? These are proper questions, and they are important questions because right now we're growing very actively. If last year the headcount growth was on a level in the course of 1 year 150 people, this year we practically have opened 300 vacancies. And in the course of first 4 months, we've actively grown. We've hired a lot of new employees, and I'm not going to hide it. We do have a problem of lack of facilities, especially in Moscow, because we have several offices. We don't just work in Moscow. We work in 6 regions of Russian Federation. From one side, transition to remote hybrid format of operations helps us from this point of view. And in recent couple of years, many of our employees moved into this hybrid mode of operation. It helps us. It helps us to save on those workplaces and rental costs. However, we are solving this question for our future extension with necessary facilities. So it's most likely that
в следующем году, скорее всего,
this or next year, most likely next year, we are going to be involved in some capital investments into the rent, reconstruction. So it's going to be rent and not a purchase of your own office. We look at different options.
сказать, как будет.
I cannot tell you exactly.
Окей, ну вот вы сказали, что много вакансий.
Okay, you've told us that you have a lot of vacancies in the company. Tell me, please, it's very interesting.
Известных событий с
Because after recent events, and I've been speaking with Maxim, operational director, and he said
совершенно, ну, ушло, скажем так, временно
that
совершенно незначительное количество людей. Вот
very insignificant number of people have left the company. What was about this situation in April and May? Do you still see outflow of IT specialists due to this tense geopolitical situation?
Сказать, что
Well, I would like to tell you that
мы
before March, we have observed outflow, and it is a normal outflow on the same level. It was a natural outflow on the same level like it was happening last year.
после февраля
After the February events, we've seen a lot of employees who wanted to leave and work in some other regions.
возможность,
And we've been providing them with this opportunity,
там, большая часть тех сотрудников, кто уезжал, сейчас
especially for those employees who've been leaving. Some of them are returning, so nobody have left the company.
как-то в ближайшее
So I think that in the nearest future, everything's going to be stabilized and we'll come back to
ну, кроме того,
So you don't have any problems with employees. Yes, I understand that you need new employees, but there is no big outflow. No.
набираем людей.
Right now, we are actively hiring new people, and even it's a reverse situation. This growth of hiring, which was happening in the last 4 months,
Закрытие вакансий, которые
and we are closing the vacancies that we have. To us, this is a positive trend that we have not observed previously, and this is related to the fact that
усиление потока и уход большого количества
a
работодателей.
big number of employers leave Russia, especially IT companies, and they release big amount of good specialists, and we are inviting them to us, and that's what we are actually doing.
известных событий
After these events, our state proposed new benefits for IT industry.
я не знаю деталей,
I don't know of details. I have not been looking into this question. Have these benefits been introduced? But have you tried to evaluate financial consequences for your company from these benefits? Because as I understand, companies like yours should be ones to win from those benefits provided to IT people.
Позитив технологий,
Of course, positive technologies and positive group are
этих льгот.
main beneficiaries of those benefits because we are IT company, not just IT company, but a development company. So benefits which have been provided to IT companies last year, they do cover those companies which have more than 90% in the structure of their revenue is the revenue from development and sales of their own products. So we are covered by this category of benefits. Also, this year they've provided additional benefits on profit tax. Profit tax
2025 года.
will work until the year 2025. Right now, they discuss changes, and possibly there will be some additional benefits and preferences for other types of revenues for IT companies because big number of companies
Возможности воспользоваться.
don't have any possibilities of using these benefits. At the same time, they also are IT companies and actively invest and develop their products, and we need to support and keep their IT specialists. Also, right now, the state have announced and starts working with a program of support of beneficial IT support of IT companies and provide loans for system founding IT companies, those which are in the list. And Positive Technologies also is in this list. And also additional benefit loans are provided for the digitalization program, which is also a big program. And for this digitalization program, we also see the development of products and technologies, Positive Technologies. That's why I think that we will continue using these benefits.
в числах. То есть, допустим,
You have not estimated this in numbers. How much this is? 5-10% of EBITDA will be added by some benefits. Or is it hard to evaluate? Well, we've been applying like 3% profit tax, and this year we'll have a zero rate for profit tax, and this is the effect. Profit tax zero rate profit tax. And this is the main positive influence right now. From what can you evaluate? Of course, social payments are reduced, and we've been applying them last year as well.
будет ставка, как и в
Да.
прошлом году.
It's going to be the same as previous year.
Наверное, уже и так хорошо.
So it's everything is very good here, but we expect profit tax. This effect has already been considered last year, and in addition to this one, they will reduce the profit tax. And this is upon the results of the year 2022, 2023, 2024.
Так, еще один вопрос от нашего...
Okay, we have another question from our analytic. In your profit forecast, you use some range spread.
Вы все-таки на данный момент прогноз...
At a given moment of time, the forecast for the year 2022, you see closer to which side of the spread? EBITDA from 4 to 6 billion and profit-wise from 2 to 5.
Просто сохраняйте
Пока-
диапазон.
Or you just keep the spread without any. Yeah, we are going to keep the spread
Сейчас еще только
because right now it's still May, and from the point of view of the sales results, we still see April. We don't see the most important period, Q4.
есть, конечно, очень
From one side, we do have a lot of positive trends on the market, and we see new segment, a new niche that is being released when big Western players are leaving this country, and active growing demand for cyber security. But on the other side, we do understand that there is a lot of risks. Nobody can evaluate the economical condition and in which direction our economy is going to move, how it's going to be reflected on companies, their sustainability, their budgets. That's why the Q4 is going to be indicative. So we look in this future positively, but more precise assessments will be given in our next event in the autumn.
Желаю
Well, I would like to wish you and your shareholders, first of all,
реальные результаты фактически.
so that real actual results would be even higher than the top level of your forecasts, so that your investors, none of them would be disappointed. Allah, thank you very much for this interesting conversation, and I do hope that everybody who's been watching us and our viewers were interested, and Timofey Martynov was the host of this discussion. Alla Makarova, the CFO of Positive Technologies, was answering my questions. Thank you very much, and see you next time.